So it was just a couple of days ago. I covered the interview of Jaguar Wright on Piers Morgan. She was revealing quite a bit of information there about Sean Diddy Combs and her experience with him in the music industry. But she also revealed some information about JayZ and Beyonce as well. Let's take a look back at that, and then I'm going to explain to you why this is problematic now, especially for Piers Morgan. Let's get into it.
Why there's no vindication for me? Because for 4 years, I've been screaming, not just Diddy, but Diddy and JayZ are monsters. And the victim-making machine kept going on.
JayZ has been notable by his silence since these charges were brought against Diddy. Why do you think that is?
Because that's what he does. He starts little fires everywhere, forces everyone involved to go and carry water while he sneaks away without a response. That changes now, Sean. You must respond. You have no choice. Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, Robert Kelly, Sean Combs have one person in common, professionally and privately: Sean Carter. This has been a fist of tyranny that has been punching through our culture and our society for decades. It must stop.
There's been obviously a lot of
cruelty-free artistry.
Right.
So I don't know if you guys noticed, but there was a voice in the background there when she was talking about JayZ. Let's go back and see if we can hear that one more time. I did not notice that the first time, but let's listen for that voice in the background.
Sean, you must respond. You have no choice. Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, Robert Kelly, Sean Combs have one person in common, professionally and privately: Sean Carter. This has been a fist of tyranny that has been punching through our culture and our society for decades.
There was the voice. There was a voice in the background said something like, is she talking to, I don't know who that was. Maybe that was a producer, but I'm assuming that was not supposed to get through. So that was interesting. I wonder if she was saying, like, trying to say, is she talking about JayZ? Because she was brought onto the show to talk about Diddy and in the Diddy case. So I don't know if Piers Morgan knew that she was going to bring up JayZ or not, but it sounded like that could have been a producer or someone in the background.
It must stop.
There's been obviously a lot of
cruelty-free artistry.
Right. There's been a lot of rumor mill about what has happened in the rap world. A lot of allegations that the misogyny in the lyrics clearly was based on a general misogyny towards women away from the music. And that
Jeff, Sean Carter is JayZ.
Clearly seems to have been borne out by these charges against Diddy, which, if he's found guilty of all this, he's never coming out of prison. How dangerous do you think?
Thank God.
How dangerous do you think he is as a person?
I think he's one of the most dangerous people I've ever met. A lot of people have been questioning, well, she doesn't really know him. She has no knowledge of him. She doesn't have a picture with him. I'm smarter than Claudia Jordan. I would never take a picture with the devil. Everyone knew he was the devil. He's been the devil for 30 years. He's been covered and protected by not only Clive Davis, but Lucian Grange. He was selected to be the demon that he is, to keep the culture in line so the industry could continue to rape it for all of its precious jewels. We have too many lost. The list of lost is ridiculous. And everyone knows Diddy was selected for this job.
Okay, so that was just a bit of the interview that I covered, but more specifically the part there about JayZ and Beyonce, which again, I don't know if Piers Morgan knew that she was going to bring up JayZ, but apparently it was brought to my attention that JayZ, since that interview, JayZ and Beyonce had their lawyers reach out to Piers Morgan. So let's get into this story here. By the way, it's just his interview. Jaguar Wright has had multiple interviews with different YouTube hosts talking about JayZ and a bunch of other people. But for whatever reason, they chose to respond just to Piers Morgan. So I don't know what that's about, but let's get into it. Piers Morgan apologizes to JayZ and Beyonce. So there's Piers Morgan there, and it goes on to say, last week, he interviewed singer Jaguar Wright about Sean Diddy Combs' recent arrest. She said on the show she had been screaming that Diddy and JayZ are monsters for years. Morgan said on Tuesday that he had been contacted by JayZ and Beyonce's lawyers who said the claims were totally false and have no basis in fact. So again, this goes back to other people have made this point as well. People have said that Jaguar Wright has a lot of information that she's, discussing on these shows, but they also add like there seems to be no evidence that she's bringing along with her, right? But that's one of the pushback things that she will get from people is they're like, you're saying all these things about these musicians, but you have no evidence. However, it wasn't until this Piers Morgan interview where it seems as though JayZ and Beyonce decided to go after the host for having her on to have this discussion. As I said, if you search for her on YouTube, you search Jaguar Wright and JayZ on YouTube, you will see there is a number of interviews that she has had where she has talked about JayZ as well. But they chose to, for whatever reason, go after Piers. It could be because Piers Morgan has over 1 million subscribers. I don't know. But I want you to hear what he said, because he had to come back and make a public apology. So listen to this.
The allegations leveled at Sean Diddy Combs have burst the floodgates on salacious claims about an industry many people believe harbored a monster. Understandably, the internet's ablaze with claims about these events and whether other powerful figures were involved too. Well, last week I interviewed Jaguar Wright, a singer-songwriter who's made claims about Diddy for years. Those claims had already received a lot of attention in the media across many platforms for many years. And that's the thing about platforms. The reality of the modern world is that pretty much everyone has a platform as long as they have something to say that other people want to hear. That's why we invited her on to be interviewed. The people making these claims have an audience with or without shows like mine. Well, Jaguar Wright unexpectedly made several serious allegations about JayZ and Beyonce during that interview. As I said in the moment, they were not present to respond or defend themselves, but now they have. Their lawyers contacted us to say that those claims were totally false and have no basis in fact, and we've therefore complied with the legal request to cut them from the original interview.
So did everybody hear that? So they had to remove that part of the conversation from that interview. So they went back and they edited, and you can go check it for yourself. I saw it. They went back and they edited that video. So now it does not include that information anymore. So, and this brings up another question. Are other celebrities going to do the same? Because again, there are a number of YouTube channels that talk about like celebrity affairs or whatever, this type of thing. And everybody has been talking about the Diddy situation. So it makes you wonder, are other musicians going to do the same and target the host of those shows? So it almost kind of sounds like he got a cease and desist if they had to go back and they had to remove that piece from the interview. Does that how do you feel about that? Does that make it look like JayZ and Beyonce look more guilty, or does it make it look like they're just trying to defend themselves and their reputation and say, no, these things aren't true, right?
Editing interviews is not something we do lightly at a show called Uncensored. But like the proverbial cries of fire in a crowded theatre, there are legal limits on us too. And we apologise to JayZ and Beyonce. Well, now Sean Diddy.
So that being said, so they issued the apology here. And he also brought on the lawyer. And this is the lawyer I did want you guys to hear from. This lawyer here, he is the one that is representing the 100 people that have come forward, over 100 people. He's the one that made the announcement recently and said that some of them were minors when this happened. So I want you to hear a little bit from him.
To say.
Your hotline took 12,000 calls in 24 hours, including many new allegations involving minors. At the moment, there's no class action. Each case you take will be represented individually, but just the fact you've got 120 already that you're repping, and you're getting so many calls, what does that tell you about the scale of all this?
Well, you know, I know that's reported 12,000 calls in a 24-hour period, and of course that's true. I want people to know that you know, obviously that's not 12,000 people claiming to be victimized by Sean Combs. That's, you know, a large portion of those people calling with, you know, words of support. Others were prank calls and crank calls, as you might imagine, in this kind of situation. What's most interesting to me and what's most helpful are people that call that have bits of information, bits of evidence, video, perhaps pictures. And then, of course, we're particularly interested in people that had interaction with Mr. Combs and what they say happened to them and victims. But, you know, I was trying to get my head around the fact that, you know, we're talking about thousands of people calling and hundreds of alleged victims. And how could that possibly be the case? But, you know, when you put that in context and you think about conduct that allegedly occurred over a 25-year period in multiple different venues, parties every week, sometimes multiple times a week, and the same MO each time has been alleged. Typically, it involves some sort of illicit substance placed in someone's drink, and then that individual is coerced or taken advantage of. And that's kind of the overarching theme here. And so a lot of these calls, you know, on first glance, you say, my goodness, that's just impossible that many people would call with information or who have been victimized. But when you look at it, in the context of a long period of time in a particular modus operandi, it makes a lot of sense.
I mean, it's not.
And we'll go ahead and pause it there. So again, a number of people have contacted his office. Like he said, a lot of them are not legit. So let's keep that in mind. You know, some people just trying to find a way if they can get their name out there. Just keep that in mind. But now Jaguar Wright also issued a statement about this input from JayZ and Beyonce. And Crimson Bear shared this here, said JayZ and Beyonce are coming after Jaguar Wright. Jaguar has had her foot on their necks for years. So listen to what she had to say here. And I have a question for you guys. Does this woman have any type of security or protection or anything? Because I told you guys before, I've seen her do interviews about people in the music industry for years. Like this didn't just start like with the Diddy allegations. Like she has been talking about this for years.
Unnecessary court fees and litigations because JayZ wants me broken, stopped, or under his control. And it ain't gonna happen, Sean. I'm never gonna be under your control. Never. You need to learn how to control your wife. And
so now she gets hit with third-degree theft charges.
her friends and their mouths. Because you got Beyonce in the Beehive looking real fucking dumb right now. 5 million unfollowed, and that number's gonna go up with every image in one of those freak-off tapes. And God help, if anybody here, how that bitch really talks about people with her, they'll start unfollowing by the tens of hundreds. Again. And they should. Because the truth is, the only reason they were following was because of the witchcraft and the spells that were being pushed out through the media. Y'all ain't fans because y'all really love them and y'all really think they're the best. You're fans because you fell for the hype. And they are hypes. I know I can sing. I've been able to do that my whole life. And they've been trying to stop me my whole career. Because see, unlike Beyonce, I'm not willing to hurt people to get famous. See, that's the part of the story that they're not telling y'all. That the more terrible you are, the more they'll protect you.
Wild stuff, guys. Wild stuff. I don't know. I just, yeah. I didn't even know that JayZ was paying attention to Piers Morgan, but I'm wondering if someone probably sent them that interview and said, just FYI, your name was mentioned on Piers Morgan's show. So you might want to handle this. I don't know. But it does make you wonder, you know. But I've said this before, though. I think when you are saying those things, it's like if you don't have proof, and she said on Piers Morgan's show that she did have tapes. Okay. But people aren't seeing the evidence. It makes it a lot easier for someone like JayZ and Beyonce to push back and say, you're just talking, you don't have any proof, right? At least that's how it would be viewed in a court of law. And I think that when she talked about losing millions of followers, she must be talking about social media or whatever. I don't pay attention to how many followers like celebrities have or whatever, but she must be talking about social media. So I guess there's a loss of followers happening there, maybe after that interview. I don't know. Crazy times we're living in, folks. Crazy times. I couldn't believe they went after Piers Morgan. That one was, I couldn't believe she was on Piers Morgan, number one, but I was surprised they went after Piers. Oh boy.